unlike last week where we were maybe a little irresponsible. I don't know, self-indulgent, one might say. But here we are. So I've got Red Cobalt Gaming's stream open from the Twilight Archipelago game, and you can only see half the screen because of how we have our setup set up, and that's fine because we're not really concerned about what's happening there. We're concerned about what's happening in your report. So the background here is that you love Monster Hunter. You ran a series of Monster Hunter one-shots in 5e. You liked it enough that you ran a mini-series. I believe the mini-series was 30 games? Question mark?
20 sessions.
20 sessions? Okay, 20 sessions. Yep. There were some real kick-ass moments in that particular campaign, thanks to the inclusion of A5E's martial maneuvers, but now you're a Pathfinder kid.
Yep.
It says so on your voter's registration card and your taxes. So you ran a one-shot to test out some of the stuff, and from what I heard, it was very good and very authentic. So I want to know right away, was it more authentic and more fun than your 5e attempt?
I think it was a little more authentic than the 5e one, mainly because of all the extra like we had there's so many items in Pathfinder that I already made, and so many of them are so closely adjacent to like what you would find in Monster Hunter, so I could just put them in there. The hazard systems was a very easy transition to the traps that I made, like my rockfall and the vine traps. Hazards work pretty well for like the sleep toads and all the environmental stuff that's there. The whole action economy of putting your weapon away to get items and stuff like that felt very Monster Hunter. The teamwork, because Pathfinder is such a hard, such a tactical game, it requires so much teamwork.
Yeah.
That was also in there. Like we had people buffing each other. The alchemist was giving people potions so they can get some more movement speed.
Okay.
So that they can keep up with the monster. And then we had a hunting horn person who was, giving people some extra defense so they, when the creature was doing AoE attacks, people were actually able to stay up.
Nice. Okay.
People, and then a lot of the homebrew that I did for the weapons was very like, I tried to make it as Monster Hunter as possible, and so that helped out too. And just I will say the monster, I think of like in 5e, the monsters were maybe a little bit closer to Monster Hunter.
Interesting. Okay.
But if I were to run it raw, but I think the way I set it up now with the hazardous monsters, it's better than what I would have did in 5e, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's a core complaint of mine since we started doing Pathfinder was the support for players and player characters is amazing. The design of monsters is amazing, but the support for boss monsters is just not there. Because no monster is technically a boss monster in Pathfinder, right? So yeah. But we've been working on that. Yeah.
And I part of me thinks that it's just experience of encounter design from back when I first did the Monster Hunter thing to now. I'm just better at making boss encounters, and so that kind of made these monsters feel a little bit better. Because when I have the hazardous monster design, and I think I am more comfortable building boss encounters now.
Okay.
In general, in a TTRPG.
Gotcha.
So I think that's what made it a little bit more like it felt like a monster, like a tough monster. Like you were in a high rank, like you just got the gear enough to get into this fight, and you're fighting a monster that will beat you up. That's what it felt like. And it was a core Pookie Pookie, which is not one of those monsters, but it felt like it.
Yeah. So I have a question about the comparison between a 5e Monster Hunter boss using the Paragon action economy versus using your hazard monster. Did you feel like you still had the freedom to do and a lot of cool stuff and respond to what was going on in the battle like you did with the Paragon monster versions, or did you feel a bit more restrained?
So I felt more restrained, but that required the monster to be more creative.
Okay.
Which was more entertaining, I think.
For the players, for sure, right? Like, because,
and for me,
because it also would have more of that Monster Hunter Dark Souls sort of pattern to it, right? Where, like, you know that it's limited in what it can do and when it can do it, versus a Paragon monster that can just sort of adapt on the fly to whatever it needs to do.
And so it allowed the players to do teamwork stuff.
Yeah.
It made me as a GM to, like, okay, this monster only is going to do this, only has this options next. So I mean, what's the best thing you could do? And so then it started being a little, and then that, it was also more. I like tactical combat, so it made it more interesting for me because I could play the monster, like the monster, and like, okay, I can only do this. What will be the best thing for this monster to do? And I could, and with Pathfinder and with this like encounter system and all the numbers being so, well designed, I can play the monster as smart as the monster can be.
Yeah. And
trust that the system will, they'll be able to make it. So in the case of this encounter, it was an extreme encounter. So an extreme encounter in Pathfinder is a 50-50 chance of TPK.
Yeah.
That's what it says. And they at the end of the fight, when they killed the monster, only one character was up, and he was at half HP. The other ones were all down.
Nice.
And like close to like actual dying. And so, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. That's a 50-50 chance of doing the thing. And also, they were rolling really terrible throughout the entire day, night.
That's really all. That's really all it takes in Pathfinder.
Except for the one character who was the one that was up, who was a ranger all the way in the back, shooting from like 100 feet away.
Wow.
Yep. And they got like, I don't know, maybe like 12 crits throughout the.
Jesus.
I don't know. It was Dirk.
Really nice.
Yeah, he was a ranger. He's a Palico ranger, and Remy had a Palico familiar, and he was a Palico ranger, and both of them were just rolling like the best.
That's amazing.
Like the Palicos were just the luckiest thing, and I felt very Monster Hunter too.
And Dirk has no experience with Monster Hunter.
No.
So I spoke to him about it, and he said he really enjoyed it. So I think that's really great if someone who has no nostalgia investment, right, in your IP crossover still enjoys the thing, then I definitely feel like you're doing it right. I definitely feel like you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I feel like I asked you a very unfair question because you have run now one Monster Hunter adventure in one session of Monster Hunter in Pathfinder versus 23 5e ones, and 23-1 you're saying that overall you've already feel like you're having a better situation with this rule set. You feel like this rule set supports it a lot more.
For me, yes, because there's so much content in here that I can just repurpose. I don't have to make up a lot of stuff, which I had to do in 5e. So that's just more comfortable for me, and it makes it so that I can focus on like designing a really cool monster.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about designing all the other stuff that I need to have to run a campaign.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Oh, especially with the monster part crafting system.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I didn't have to do that much work for that part because I used the thing from that Erwin made in 5e, the whole guide to monster hunting. And
right. Yeah, true.
So I would say I didn't have
that wasn't already built in Foundry. You still had to build that stuff. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff in here I had to build. Like I spent a lot of time building. Like I didn't have any of the weapons, so I had to build all the weapons, build all the abilities for the weapons for most of them because I didn't repurpose all of them. How was that process? Like how did that process?
It took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while, but it was. I mean, I like Monster Hunter and I like Pathfinder, and I was putting them together. So it was, I got hyper focused and like we are streaming, but we'll just say that a lot of time was spent probably when it shouldn't have been spent.
So yeah, good, nice save. I don't have a head for languages, right? Like I understand programming. Like I've got I've taken college classes and passed them on programming. I've programmed a couple of games. I've made a couple of games or whatever. But like I have to have like a notepad or where I'm just like copy and pasting the most common code that I'm using because I cannot call to mind the code that I need. And with the Pathfinder stuff, I feel it's like even worse than normal because like to me none of it feels intuitive at all. So it's very much like I'm gonna probably just make like a working document where I can just Control F and be like damage, and then have a section on damage where I can copy and paste the code. Because now my process is opening something that I think is gonna have the code I need, copying the code, modifying it. It's like it's been tedious. Like we learned a lot prepping for Extra Life for sure. I mean, we got saved like from doing a lot of it because Sam jumped in and did a ton of the item creation and stuff for us. But the stuff that I did, I've learned like a lot, and it's good because like I want to be able to start like hacking up these monsters and hacking up these items and hacking up these spells and like repurposing them. But I will say that there is that like you do need to understand kind of a very basic level of coding to do that, which I would still take over the new 5e system.
of menus upon menus upon menus.
I would rather learn how to code than to deal.
Remember Exhibit Pip My Ride where you put I heard you like a menu, so I put some menus inside the menu.
It's terrible. I think we were changing one thing for Julian in a Mythic game, and it was like we were 7 menus deep at one point to just change one aspect of one ability. It was crazy. But okay. So cool.
So on that note about like building this stuff, yes, I spent a lot of time learning code, and because of that, I made a lot of things very similar. So like one thing with all the weapons, they all base their scaling off weapon damage dice because I found the code for that, and then I used that for a lot of things. So like the hammer for instance, every time you charge the hammer, you add 2 damage. You add 2 times the number of weapon damage dice to your next strike, right? And so I had the code for it, and I was like, okay, I want to make it so that it's scaling. So like every time you charge, if you get up to level 3, then it's 3 times. Times 2, it stacks, right? Yeah. And so I was like, okay, let me look at the code for fear, for frighten.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the item that makes it so that every time you get a counter on the thing, it stacks. And so I just put those 2 codes together, and then now I have that example. And then anything else that goes with stacking and adds damage, I can just use the same code. And so a lot of the things are like that. They're all like maybe like a status bonus, and the damage is equal to the number of weapon damage dice, or a modifier of the weapon damage dice because I know that code. And then it was just a lot of like going to one item, opening up, seeing how they do it, putting it on the item that I want to use, and then just making slight modifications of that on the items that are similar. Yeah. And I got to the point where because I was doing it so much, over to like 12 or 14 weapons. Yeah. And like each of them have like 2 or 3 abilities. After a while, I was just like, okay, I know where this code is. I was just typing it in myself.
Wow. All right. Nice.
I got to the point where, but I didn't do any of the like really crazy stuff. Everything is kind of in that simple, like, okay, we're adding extra damage, or we're adding, this, you're adding like, your resistance goes up to this number, and everything is scaling off of this very similar stuff. So it really helped me sort of solidify how to do it that way. And so, I mean, I for everything else, I don't know if I'm ever going to do anything more crazy than that, but like that was a good start, and it kind of gave me the logic behind how they have this stuff set up.
Right.
Where like a term like selector, I know when they say selector, they're asking like, okay, are you talking about the damage of the weapon? Are you talking about a save? You're talking about a stat or something like that.
Okay, so it's like also the variable that's going to affect the
the variable. Yeah. And then like there's like a little question mark when you go into your like rules element. There's like a little question mark that has like a big list of a number of things you can use to select something. Like if you're talking about this item, it would say, okay, the code for this item is this, this, and this. And there's a big list of there already built into the item. You just mouse over the little question mark.
Nice.
Which helps a lot too.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work. I'm not gonna say, like, anybody who's doing this, if you don't know it, it's a lot of work. Like, I can understand anybody who doesn't want to do this because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I was passionate about getting this set up. So and hyperfocus kind of kicked in, and I dived in deep.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, not to get off topic, but the tools that allow us to play TTRPGs online, they're phenomenal, and they continue to get more and more incredible as time goes on. But man, I feel like we're always learning something. We're always learning new stuff. We're always keeping that knowledge base full and topped off, and having to like adapt to changes constantly. You know what I'm saying? Constantly.
But I guess part of that is kind of like our own doing of wanting to like do more cool stuff.
Right.
Like the tools are there. We don't necessarily have to use them, but like,
absolutely. Like if you just bought a adventure path from Paizo, you installed it and you ran it, it's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? There's really not a lot to do. You don't need any fancy mods. You don't need any special things. You don't need to know how to program. You just run it out of the box, exactly what it says, and then you move on. I mean, same with the D&D stuff. They're getting they're licensed now with Wizards of the Coast. I think Wizards is probably just gonna not bother with their tabletop at this point. I feel like they have to though, because they pre-sold miniatures for it. But like they're licensing right now Foundry as like an official platform for D&D. So it's you're gonna get to a point, I think, where you could just like Roll20, you can buy adventures that are all ready to go in Roll20, and you don't really have to know how to dig 7 menus deep to change something, because you don't need to change anything. You don't need it. Just run it how it's supposed to be run. Okay. All right. So, what were the beats? What were the story beats of this adventure? You said it's a single hunt that they just qualified for.
Okay, so for this entire event, like setting up for the actual adventure that I'm planning, the actual campaign I'm going to run, the idea is that there is an archipelago that has shown up, on the map. It was unexplored, so they went out and tried to explore it. While they were there, this weird phenomenon started happening where it, at random times of the day, it would just turn nighttime or twilight.
Okay.
On the archipelago. And no one understands what's going on. And so when it happened, monsters started going crazy, and so they left. And now they ask for experienced hunters to come and protect them while they try and figure out what's going on, so you can actually figure out what's going on this island.
Okay.
On this island chain, this archipelago. And so this was the first hunt where they got some experienced hunters to go and clear out the beach, because that's where they want to sort of land. They found a good place where they want to land, place where they want to set up the base camp. And so, but there's a core puke who's hunting in that area, and they need the hunters to go and hunt it, whether that's capturing it or slaying it. And so that's where they came in. And the entrance beat was they came to this archipelago on an airship. Parasailed on their secrets down onto the beach.
Okay, that's cool.
And then landed in went on their hunt. We had an intro encounter against some Shamoses and some Celtices, the bugs, and the lizard, the little chameleon lizards, which apparently giant dragonflies. They're like just perfectly set up to be like a Celtis.
Nice.
They have the ability to pick people up and drag them and fly them away. They have their mandibles, and then I just gave them a horn attack, which is the same thing as their mandibles, but a little slightly stronger.
Okay.
And then there was also a frilled lizard, like a daft lizard creature, which was like level 4, which is exactly what a Shamos is. It's just a lizard, big lizard that it can grab people.
Yeah.
With their bites. So, and I just gave him Water Blight, which works as a affliction in Pathfinder, which sits perfectly with how it works in Monster Hunter. You get it, and if you at the end of your turn you make a roll. If it gets worse, it gets worse. If it gets better, you get better.
So what does Water Blight do in Pathfinder 2e?
So I made it. It gives you a -10 status penalty to your speed at stage 1, and at stage 2 you're slowed 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you weakness to water?
No.
Okay.
In Monster Hunter, it doesn't give you weakness to water. It just makes you spend more stamina.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then they finish off that intro encounter. Were they able to rest before the Coral Puki Puki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They could. They could sit down and drink potions and there was people who had medicine, so they did some medicine, but they barely got hurt during that fight because it wasn't meant to be tough. It was just meant for them to try out their weapons and get used to like the new abilities that they have.
Are you gonna have a cooking mini game, or is that going to be sort of represented by people with the medicine skill?
So I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it right now. We did have cooking in eating before a hunt in this one, and it was just you choose which meal you ate. And I had the meals give you temp HP, and a +1 status bonus to a specific save that you wanted, depending on the type of meal you wanted.
Okay, that's cool. All right.
Yeah, you get a +1 fortitude, or a will or a reflex, whichever one you felt like you wanted.
And you made custom status effects to apply those meals?
Yeah, I made a well-fed status effect.
Oh, did you do the thing where when you apply the well-fed, it asks like which bonus you're applying from like a menu?
No, I just have I had the 3.
Okay.
I don't know. That's too complicated for me. So I just had the 3. They tell me which one they want, and then I give them that one.
Yeah, like some of this stuff in Pathfinder just blows my mind. Like, there was a custom monster in Outlaws that, as a reaction, would gain resistance 5 to the damage type it just took until its next turn, or until it decided to use the ability again, so it could like keep it through its next turn. But when you would put it out in a chat, like, I'm using this reaction, there was a little button, you drag it over, and there's a pop-up that would appear, and then you would pick any of the damage types in the game, and then it would apply that temporary. It's crazy.
Like runic weapon, when you apply to somebody, it pops up and says, "Hey, these are all the weapons you have. Which one is this being applied to?"
Yeah, it's nuts,
and then it goes into the weapon, not your character. It goes into the weapon.
Yeah.
And adds all the things temporarily.
Yeah. Coming from like, the last couple of years of just using convenient effects, and then the years before that using Cub, you know what I'm saying? And then back on Roll20, just putting little icons on there, and everybody had to mental math everything, right? You just looked at all the icons you had, and you're like, oh, I actually have +4 to this because of all these icons. Yeah, we've come a long way. It's come a long way.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So then they get into the fight with the Coral Puki Puki, or Puke Puke.
Yeah.
Right. Is that in a different map, or did you just use the same map?
Different map. Yeah, so you can skip ahead if you want on the thing, because they fight it on a new map. I had 3 maps prepped, and this was supposed to be the intro fight. They kill these things. They go fight the Puki Puki on the actual beach.
Okay.
And then when he gets a 50% HP, or when one of his parts breaks, he was supposed to run to his lair, and then they fight him at his lair.
Did he not get away? Is that what happened?
Well, no, because they didn't get him down to 50% until we were like really close to the end of the session.
Oh.
Like, we were sort of getting close to running time. And I told him at this point he would definitely run, and I showed him what happened. And I said, but we're I don't want people keep. We were on a Wednesday night, and it's getting late. I was like, I don't want to keep you guys here, so he's not gonna run.
Okay.
So you guys can, continue fighting him. And they were like, maybe he could run so we can rest, a bit. But they
just ended on a draw. Just ended on a draw. Like,
no. So that they could spend spend a couple minutes just doing the healer mini game, so they can get some HP back and reset themselves, clear up some of their conditions, and then go ahead and fight them.
So Puke Puke is one of the most poisonous monsters in Monster Hunter, and Pathfinder has some of the worst. And by worst, I mean best poison I've ever seen in a TTRPG. So I was very curious how this turned out.
So Coral Puke, which is that variant, doesn't do any poison besides water blight.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because I didn't, I wanted to start at level 5. He's supposed to be the higher version. He's just a big acid and water person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he did a lot of acid.
Well, acid does ongoing damage also, right?
Yeah. So there was persistent damage involved at some points.
Okay.
And then for poison, instead of the poison being like damage over time poison, it was water blight, which is an affliction. I had to be considered a poison.
Yeah.
And they rolled fortitude saves against it, and people were getting slowed, and people were getting 10 status bonus to speed, and because of the speed penalty, they were having a hard time running up on him because he had an 80-foot flight speed, and could run away and stuff like that. He had a reaction where if you miss an attack against him, he does a reaction step. Mm-hmm. So fighter will run up, miss their first attack, and then it will step away.
Oh, and they got the speed penalties too. So yeah. Okay.
So that was his thing, is that he was just slippery.
All right.
So.
And now to simulate the robust action economy of a solo boss that doesn't just get to go once per thing, you did this as a hazardous monster.
Yeah. So he had three forms. It was the main body, which was Corpucapuke, his tail, and his wings.
And his wings.
And so,
you didn't go for tongue. You went for wings.
Yeah, I didn't go for tongue. Okay. Tongue was just one of the weapons that he had on his main body.
All right.
So tail and wings, and so the wings, because the wings were healthy, he had an 80-foot fly speed. If they broke the wings, he would go down to a 40-foot fly speed. So that was good. Mm-hmm. And he can only move on his main body's turn, or he can fly on his wings turn. So, and he only could fly. I only made him be able to fly once on his wing turn per turn, per round. So that way he wasn't so slippery to the point where on every single action the whole body could move. Spend actions to move. So the tail couldn't move. He could not move on his tail's turn, and he could fly on his wing turn, and on his main body he can use all his movement.
With his wing turn, if he wasn't already in the air, did he have to land after his flight? Or could he stay airborne? Okay, he could stay airborne.
As long as once per round, either his main body or his wings use a fly action, he would stay flying.
Wouldn't this monster benefit then from just flying and spraying acid the whole time? What ways did they have to ground the monster, like to bring it down to their level? Were they just relying on ranged attacks for that part of the fight, or?
So they have. So this is one thing. So one of the tools that everybody has is a thing called they have a gauntlet sling.
Okay.
Like in Monster Hunter World, where you have your little wrist, crossbow, and then I spread ammo all around the map where they can go and interact, put it in their gauntlet sling and shoot. One of them is called a bola pod. It allows you to do a ranged trip.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So they necessarily didn't need to do it. Because it didn't really have too many strong range attacks.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of his range attacks also had a lot of strong range attacks had recharges. It would fly in, land, hit people, and then move around and fly away. Nice. It was kind of a skirmisher. But yes, there were options for them to try and get it down with range attacks to the ammo for bola pods, and there was almost one on every single map, so somebody can get it and use it to try and knock them down. There was also vine traps and stuff like that. So if they somebody got his attention, hit it really hard, and then ran by the vine trap, the monster will run over there, and then someone can hit the vine trap to knock it down, and that would immobilize him for a bit. Okay. Even immobilizes on a success. So that vine trap immobilizes on a success. The only way you can not get affected by it was a critical success. And it hit everybody though, not just the monster. So you want to make sure you're in the right location.
I'm also seeing that for the different parts of the monsters, you opted to make the miniature like its robust butthole and its wings, so that there would be no miss. Because I think to this day that Red still thinks that there was like a second frog lady, like not just the second frog lady, but a third frog lady, and I'm like, nah, it was just a different part of the first frog lady because you just had like 3 of the same miniature, and yeah. So lessons learned for sure.
Yeah, lessons learned here. Yeah,
because there's no mistaking this being the creature's fat ass, like it's just like staring in the face. Nice. All right.
Yeah, and the cool part too is I had the parts mounted on the main body.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So as it moved around, the actors moved with it, or
yeah. Okay. They're mounted on them.
But they were invisible to the players.
At first, I had them invisible, but then so in this case, unlike with the hazardous boss I did in Strength of Thousands, this one you could target a part.
Yeah.
And so I had some stipulations about that. So in order to target a part on the monster, they had to be off guard.
Okay.
So as long as they're off guard, you can target a part with melee. Any type of melee attack.
Couldn't you have done boss bar for all 3 parts of the monster? Then they would have had 3 health bars to work with?
I didn't, because I didn't want to do that because I want them to focus on there's only 1 major health bar.
Gotcha.
If they do damage to a tail, they're doing damage to the main health bar.
Okay,
if they do damage to the wing, they're doing damage to the main health bar.
Gotcha.
There's a threshold of how much damage the wing can take before it breaks.
Gotcha.
So it's not like it's a completely separate monster. It is part of the monster. It's just an avenue to get damage to the monster.
Nice. I like the off guard to damage it a lot. I think that's really good.
So I did that for melee attacks only.
Oh, okay.
Range attack, on the other hand, can always target a part.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. One thing, range attacks usually do a lot less damage than parts.
I'd almost say that a ranged attack targeting a specific part should be at -2, like a circumstance penalty. You know what I mean?
So what I did was they had a part, like the wings had an ability where it shielded the main body and the other parts.
Yeah.
So the range person was like, oh man, the wings are also weak to outside the wings, weak to piercing, because that makes sense for Monster Hunter.
Okay.
So the range person, you want a range person there to shoot wings if you're fighting a flying monster, which is what I want. I want the range person to feel like, okay, I got my role. My role is to make sure they can get the wings, because right now these wings are letting this monster fly like 80 for each 1 action, fly 80 feet.
That's ridiculous.
Like, this thing is flying so all over the place. I can hit it because I have a range attack, and if we were to break this part, it would be really good for the rest of the party. So I want the range person to like, okay, what can I do to help my party? Okay, the wings are a really bad thing right now. Let me shoot the wings. Oh, this horn is like a real, horrible thing. Let me use one of the things I had for the guns and the bows were coatings that allowed them to do a little bit of extra damage of a specific type. So there were blunt arrow coating. So what it did, it add 1 damage of bludgeoning damage to your strikes.
Okay.
Right? And if the thing had weakness to bludgeoning 5, all you gotta do is at least hit it with that, and you'll be doing some extra damage. So and that's good for range attacks, because their idea is that, okay, I can target the parts. I'm not gonna be doing as much damage as them, but I can at least be doing the parts. And all the parts had hardness 5 on them, but with a weakness 5 to 1 physical damage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then the main body had physical resistance 10, as long as it had both its parts active.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I mean, you guys were level 5, and all the weapons. These weapons are really broken. Like, there's a lot of crazy stuff these weapons do. Like, people were doing like 60 damage on like 20 damage on a hit. On a normal hit, and 60 damage on a crit.
Okay.
Because they're level 5. They have their expert. The weapons are striking. A lot of them have like deadly and fatal. Some of them have deadly and fatal on them as melee weapons. So weapons are strong. And so monsters having that, it's good. And then once a part breaks, it loses its resistance. Once 1 part breaks, it loses its resistance. So you don't have to break both of them.
So do you feel then that the design was the fight gets easier and easier and easier as you go? or did you have mechanics that
Yes.
as it became easier to damage the monster became enraged or faster?
So yeah, the monster. So the monster will get slower if you broke its wings. That's
Okay.
it.
All right.
For sure, that would happen. And if the wings broke, that it loses that action economy. But every time a part breaks, it can rage.
Okay.
Every time it gets critical hit, it could rage.
All right.
So and what rage does, it gives it temp HP. It gives it plus damage on its strikes.
Mm.
What else did it do? Hold on, let me look at what the rage did. All right, +2. It gave it, so in this case, it gave it +2 damage to all its strikes, a +10 status bonus to all of its speeds. It also got temp HP, and it recharged all of its abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and it rages 1d4 rounds.
The monster rage actually lasts for a certain amount of time too.
Yeah, 1d4 rounds. And
okay.
but again, every time it's crit, it can do a rage.
Wow. Every time it gets crit, it can rage. Does it use a reaction to rage or no?
It's a free action.
Free action.
Triggered by.
Wow.
But it has triggers. So the trigger is getting critical hit, getting reduced to 50% of your HP, or getting a part broken.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So there's that. And so it will get that, and I base it on. I just copied some of the code from Barbarian Rage, and then added some extra stuff on there on top of it. So there's that. That happens. It has its roar like normal. That was a 2-action thing that fears everybody it's a big fear roar. And if you critically fail, you get stunned.
That's a great way to handle the roaring of a monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then earplugs are already a part of the game, so you didn't have to make special earplugs. Yeah.
It has the auditory trait. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So and then it has its desperate flee. So I had another thing, like if a part breaks, or if it gets reduced to 50% of HP, it could choose to either rage or it could desperate flee.
And what did desperate flee let you do?
The potion, the fleeing potion.
Oh, the Expeditious Retreat potion or whatever, or Expeditious. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much they get that. They get fleeing, and they get a 40-foot status bonus to all their speed.
Nice.
And then it's a free action, and they can stride once the free action is triggered. Got it.
And then they always flee to their lair if possible.
Yeah, I would. If in the case of a hunt, I would design where they would flee to if they needed to.
Like you would know the route that they would take.
Yeah.
Basically?
Yes. Okay. That's not random. I would know for the hunt. Yeah. For the counter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Something else about this with the monster parts. So they did have a super signature move, which was for Core Puke Puke in Monster Hunter. He has a thing where he like flies, and like his tail bulges, and he does like a really big spray in like a circle under him, like just while around. Yeah. And so I had him do that, but in order to do that ability, it had to recharge 6d6. So 6 it had a d6 of rounds it had to do to recharge. But in order to activate it, it had each part had to do a 2-action ability before it could do it. Okay. Yeah. So the one, it had to be recharged.
Did they have to do them consecutively, or could it do like on turn 1 the tail spent 2 actions, then on turn 2 the wing spent 2 actions, and then on turn 3 the body spent 2 actions?
So the effect will end at the start of the parts next turn.
Oh, so it has to be consecutive 2 actions.
Yeah. So in the case of this, actually, what happened in this case? The wings won I rolled a nat 20 for the wings initiative, and so the wings were going in front of the wings, and the tail beat the main body. And so what ended up happening is the wings delayed at the beginning of the fight.
Nice.
And then the tail stayed ahead of the main body. So it was tail. No, I did. Yeah, the tail was ahead. I ended up having to delay all the body parts to go before the main body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that they just rolled, the main body just rolled really bad, and so what ended up happening is in the what you call it? I think no. So in the second round, I started doing that. In the first round, because the tail and the wings went first, I had them use their 2-action abilities before the main body went.
Oh, and then by the time they reached the main body, it was primed to go off.
It was primed to go. Yeah. Okay. So, and the main body special ability was a 2-action ability as well.
Yeah.
With a 6, a recharge of 6. So the wings had to brace themselves. So and then I had a little description that the Puka Puka's wings like brace themselves to stabilize the Puka Puka.
Mhm.
You see the muscles flex in his arms.
Yeah.
And then the tail had an two-action ability called bulge. Tail's bulging. Looks like it's ready to burst. And then the main body had 3 actions on its turn. So at first action, it flew into position, and in the second action, it did the second 2 actions. It did a thing, which was a let me see what the ability was. I think it was called I think I called it I think it was Caustic Burst. Is this it? Yes, this was it. So it was a 30-foot burst under it. So it had to do this while flying. The tail and wings had to use their abilities. It did 4d6 bludgeoning damage plus 4d6 acid damage for a DC 25 reflex save.
Okay.
Critical success. You are unaffected. Success, you take half the damage and you're exposed to water blight. Failure, you take the full damage and you're exposed to water blight. Critical failure, you take the full damage. You don't take double. You take full damage. You're exposed to water blight. You're knocked prone, and you take 2d4 persistent acid damage.
Oh, nice. That's
somebody
pretty
did critically fail.
That's pretty kind of you, because that much damage on a 5th level character, if they take double it, would be pretty rough. Yeah, it'd be pretty rough. Yeah, and it's a lot more exciting to have to deal with the persistent damage, because persistent damage is fucking terrible.
I know. Yeah.
Anytime I see a heritage ability, an ancestry ability, a class ability, a skill ability that's like, I get rid of this persistent, I'm like, I think I should take that. Because I, as a DM, I've seen so many monsters only be defeated because of persistent damage. And I've seen a lot of player characters basically die. If we didn't have Fanspiration, I think the kill count in Outlaws would be in the 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like between the 2 campaigns. Like we've had so many.
There'd be a lot more heroic recoveries.
Yeah. Well, people would definitely be holding on to those hero points, because I mean it's rough. It's rough out there. Yeah.
And so it did that, and then it rolled a 6 on its recharge. So,
wait, Lex says he took double damage, but you just said he didn't take double damage. Who do I
believe? You did not take double damage, because I told you didn't take double damage.
Oh, no, he seems to think he did. He seems to think he did. Oh, man.
No, you took that persistent damage. If you press that double damage button, it was full damage. Yes. See, he said it's full damage.
Okay.
You did not take double, because I remember you did take the double, and I said no, you don't take double, you take full.
I mean, you've seen Lex in action. He loved taking critical hits.
That's his. He critically failed.
Yeah.
Instead of being critically, I don't think I critically hit him in this game, but he critically failed a lot of stuff.
He's into it. He joined Fight Club just to get punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it's about. That's what it's about. We're not allowed to talk about it, but I mean that's what happened.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got? What else was going good in this? Okay,
so in the relationship between the parts. So main body had some basic attacks. It had its main thing, and its main super move that it had a recharge on. It had another move that it had a recharge on, which was like a 10-foot burst. So he spits like lava water, and people can take a lot of cold damage. I think it was 7d6 cold damage, and explodes to water blight. And when in 10-foot bursts, and then if they critically fail, they got persistent cold damage.
So what made you go with cold damage instead of water damage?
Because there's no water damage in Pathfinder.
I think there is.
No, it's usually bludgeoning. They'll do bludgeoning or cold. That one was cold. Because we can drink a potion for it.
I don't know. I've given something resistance to water before.
I haven't seen water damage.
Weird.
I've seen bludgeoning.
Okay. I was wondering when I saw it that water was in there as something you could have resistance to.
We put juice damage. I know,
right? I know. I kind of feel like water should be its own damage.
Good. I mean, you could make. I mean, you can add any damage you want in your game. It's support raw. You can make up a damage type.
Oh, there's a water trait for various
Yes, there's water trait.
triggers. So
Yeah.
what if you're resistant to the water trait? How does that work? Does that
Yes,
mean
this thing
any
has water-
ability that
yeah.
has water on it, you'd have resistance to it by having that?
I mean, if you have something that gives you resistance to water
Yeah.
trait things, then yes, it will have the number.
Oh, that's how it works. Okay.
Yeah, usually that's what people who have resistance tend to arcane
Yeah.
spells. And so anything that does damage from the arcane caster would have resistance.
Okay. That explains why those things that we're not going to talk about that were in a recent game that shot water, that ability had the water trait, but still did bludgeoning damage. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And in this case, it had the water trait. It had the primal and water trait.
Nice.
And it did cold damage.
I love that.
And one of the reasons why I picked cold is because I like people using consumables. And one of the consumables you can get is a resistance to cold potion.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
I talked about this during the one shot. We didn't do it, but the way I plan to do hunting in this is using the Monster part system where it's all currency.
Mm-hmm.
That you can spend currency to learn about monsters if you're not an intelligence person and want to use recall knowledge.
Oh,
recall
nice.
knowledge is free.
So you can buy intel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. With monster parts.
I want to say there's been a few video games where you can do that, and I can't remember which ones they were, but you can just straight up buy like knowledge of enemies.
In Monster Hunter Worlds, when you run around and you're picking up pieces of the monster to track it adds points, and if you get enough of it, it will unlock the next tier of the monster information you have in your logbook. If you got enough. So I'm doing the same thing, pretty much. Okay. That's where I got the inspiration from. If they, when they're running around tracking the monsters, I'm planning to have it be sort of like an exploration type of thing for tracking the monsters when the real campaign happens. And some things they can do if they succeed on those tracking stuff, they might find a clue, and that clue will be a value of monster parts.
Nice. Okay.
And if they find that stuff and they want to we want to learn about this monster before we run into it, we don't really have too many people that are really good at recall knowledge. Maybe we just spend these monster parts to learn something. So. Nice. And if they know something, they might, this monster does a lot of water, has the water trait. So maybe we should focus on crafting some cold resistant potions or something like that, And I want stuff like that to happen.
Oh, I can see your monster spraying its juices everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
All right, so some more relationship between the monsters. So main body had his big thing. That's where all the rage, the roar, the fling, and it had that water glob thing. I made all the parts and the main body have a reaction. So the main body's reaction was that it had hopping dodge, where if somebody missed an attack against it, it could step away from them. So it did that, and then it had the thing that the Belocos, the weird ear crocodile monsters that you guys fought in 20,000, where it was able to do one attack against two people that were adjacent to each other. It was able to do that with its tongue.
Oh, okay, nice. As a reaction. Yeah. Nice.
No, not as a reaction. That was a 2-action ability.
Oh, okay.
It did one attack and target two people.
Nice.
That were adjacent to people. For one attack against two armor classes.
Right, without affecting map until afterwards.
Yeah. But I'll take And then it had an ability called Drink, where it would run it had to go to a body of water, and it spends 2 actions drinking. And when it does that, it recharges its water abilities. So it can recharge its Caustic Blast, its Burst, and its Water Glob by drinking, which Drink had its own recharge, and he couldn't recharge that. And when it did that, it also added a trait, the fatal trait, to it, the Tail's range attack.
And it could drink salt water too. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah. Okay. So the thing behind this monster is that the way it pollutes the environment is that it drinks water, and its waste product is acid, which damages the environment. So that's why we gotta hunt it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
It's not a good thing. It's damaging the environment. I
see. Except that acid introduced to soil, it can actually be incredibly beneficial to making the soil grow certain types of plants. But unless this acid is killing all the bacteria in the soil that supports those plants. Gotcha.
Yeah. So what
Okay.
So So yeah, that's what the main body could do. And then it had, a tongue attack. It had a talon attack, which was agile. And then it had like a short range spit.
Okay.
That didn't do a lot of damage, but it could do it had a range attack if it needed to.
Gotcha.
It had a range of 20 feet.
Okay.
The tail was where the main damage came from.
Yeah.
So the tail had a really long range shot. It would have shot like water at people, and then if it drank, it would give that shot the fatal D10 trait. So
did it have limited ammo for its tail or no?
No, it did not have limited ammo on its tail.
Okay. Even after it did its big 30-foot radius squirt, it could still spray.
No. But I treated it like a gun, so it did like 1d4 damage.
Oh, okay.
Like 2d4 damage.
Gotcha.
It did 2d4 damage plus 7 normally, and then if it drank, it had the fatal D10 trait like a normal gun. So if it crit, then it would hurt.
Gotcha.
But normally he would shoot, and it would do some damage, but it wouldn't do as much damage as everything else it could. Its main thing was it had a tail hit that had knockdown attached to it.
Okay.
Which had a 15-foot reach. So that's what it mainly did. It mainly smacked people with its tail. And then second action, try and knock them down. Knock them prone.
Nice.
Which it did a decent amount of that. And then it had a 3-action ability where it did a tailspin, where it spinned around, did 3 actions, and then it was a basic reflex save for 4d6 bludgeoning damage.
Oh, okay, like a trample kind of.
Yeah, like a trample. It didn't move. It just did a speed. It just did a spin around, and everybody
so
was
like a whirlwind strike.
Like a whirlwind, yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like a whirlwind strike.
Okay.
And everybody who was in range of the tail, so within 15 feet, takes the basic reflex save for 46 damage.
Nice.
Bludgeoning damage. It had its main sort of breath weapon, which was this caustic spray, which had the recharge. It could shoot it in a cone or a line, 60-foot line or a 30-foot cone.
Okay.
With a 1d4 recharge, and it did 7d6 at.
Nice.
All right, and its reaction was that if it took physical damage, it can spray some caustic liquid on the person that hit them adjacent for 3d4 acid damage. Basic reflex save.
Wow.
That was his reaction. So if you hit it, it can, as a reaction, shoot some acid on you. It wasn't persistent. It was just some basic damage. 3d4. So that's what his thing. So the wing, and then the wings had one melee attack. It had a wing attack which didn't have reach. So it was just a 10-foot range because it was large.
Yeah.
And it had push, so it can shove them back 5 feet. If it uses a second reaction. It had a reactive strike, but instead of striking, it had reactive shove. So if somebody got moved into its range, it could spend a reaction to shove you away 5 as the wing.
Okay.
So like you walk up to it.
I thought you said earlier the wing could protect the body from harm. Okay.
Yes, it could. So it had an action called wing shield, which was pretty much ray shield.
Oh, ray shield with the wing, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and then when the wing did that, it would give cover to the main body and the tail.
Okay, yeah, I had Tree Razor do that with his tail. I made it shielding tail, like he wrap his tail around himself, kind of thing. Okay, that's cool. And then it had a 3-action ability called Buffet, which it pushed everybody within adjacent to it away. For a basic fortitude save. Could that also be used to disperse clouds and fogs?
I didn't have it for that, but I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I could add that to it. That'd be a cool thing to add to it.
Yeah, man. Because think about that one tiny patch of concealment in that Strike the Thousands fight. What a huge difference that made. And then anytime that the alchemists drop that one square, it makes such a huge difference. I
mean, it worked. It did in here. Remy was playing alchemist, and he threw a smoke bomb, and it saved our ranger a couple times. But it also put him in it. So while it was in it, they were dealing with concealment, and the concealment didn't help him at all. Didn't help Spooky Spooky at all.
It's a total slot machine.
Yeah.
But that's why being able to disperse it would be kind of a cool thing for a monster to do. And it's thematic to a wing buffet also. Yeah. Okay.
And so all the parts had hardness 5, and then one weakness. To the wings, the tail was weak to slashing. Had slashing 5 weakness.
Makes sense.
And the wings had minus what you call it?
To piercing.
Had 5 piercing, 5 weakness. But remember, the main body had resistance 10 to all physical damage, whereas the parts only had resistance 5 to all damage.
And
but they were weak to,
and they had a weakness.
They had a weakness. So every HP that the wings lost went to the main HP. So if you wanted to actually hurt the monster really well,
you had to attack the parts.
The best thing to do is attack the parts, because then you're bypassing the resistance. And what you call it? If you're able to trigger the weakness, you're doing full damage pretty much.
But
the main body didn't have a weakness,
the big hits come from melee, and melee needed to have the target off guard.
They needed to work together.
Yeah. Okay.
They needed a flank, or you need to have a build. We had a swashbuckler who, if they ever tumbled through somebody, they gave them off guard. They made them off guard. So I mean, work together,
which is very slick, because when you play Monster Hunter, the video game, right, you have your more agile person kind of distracting the monster so that greatsword can get set up for that perfect hit. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, it sounds like it all came together really well.
Yeah. So that was how damage worked. I wanted to make parts enticing to shoot and damage, because most of the damage came from that tail. That tail was whipping people up. And then the wings, because it was flying around, moving the monster around, it was a pain to lock it down. And then it was very annoying that it kept giving everything else cover. And then the main body was just supporting its parts by drinking.
So, question in chat from Lex. Dom, any thoughts on stamina mechanic for the monsters, like constant attacking or certain weapons or ammo to wear the creature down for a brief time, like in the Monster Hunter games?
So, I did put a limit on the number of rages it could do.
Okay.
It could do 3. So it had a max of 3 rages, and it had a max of, I think, 2. It only could desperate flee once.
Okay.
It only could do, and then the idea of you breaking apart, having less action economy, made it have less action economy, meaning it's more tired.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I can definitely see that. I can see that. What if you allowed, with the rage, the 4th time it would rage, it would actually get slowed, and then that resets the rage meter. So it's like rages 3 times, then that 4th time it's actually like, hey, and then the 5th time it rages, it goes back to being able to rage again. Then you kind of get that, like, stamina where it's like trying to catch its breath without it being too impactful. I don't know. If you wanted to.
What I might end up doing is giving it maybe a 3 action ability where it's like catch your breath. Where
that kind of simulates it's like ha ha ha,
and then it uses that ability to recharge stuff.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
That's a whole turn or whole round of it not doing anything, just to recharge.
Now
stuff.
Only main body can do that too.
Yes, I'll make it only main body. Yeah. Main body to be able to do that.
I like that. I like that because some monsters will fly up or climb up somewhere where you can't get to them easily, and then they would go and catch their breath. You know what I'm saying? So that's another layer of tactics for the GM to get to play with, and the players to react to. So yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea.
And right now, since I only allow movement with the main body or a movement part, in this case the wings, I mean, those are the only ways that it's going to be able to move into a location that's safe enough for it to maybe try and do that.
Yeah.
So maybe, that makes the wings a bigger target now. It's getting tired. The wings are sort of damaged. The tail is sort of damaged, but I don't want it to catch its breath. So we should take out these wings real fast before it flies away.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just like the game. I mean, top part to take out on any monster with wings is the wings. I mean, that's just the game right there. And in 5e, the only official way, right, to do that is to have Earthbind, or knock them down when they're in the air, or paralyze them when they're in the air, that kind of thing. So, but it is always the go-to method of dealing with a flying creature is you got to take out that flying. So yeah, that's all good. All right, so to wrap it up, what needs work? What do you want to work on? What do you still need to work on? What do you need to adjust? What was your feedback from that you needed to change? Yeah.
So the feedback that I got was it felt like the monster had too many AoE abilities. That's what some of the feedback
you
I
thought
got.
they said it had too many AoE abilities.
Yeah.
How did these people playing in my games for dragons have 3 different breath weapons on separate timers?
So I personally don't think it was. I think it's just that they were rolling really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not. I got that feedback. So I'm looking at it, but I think it was okay. I think what the issue is that they did not know what the recharge was.
Okay.
So like there was a lot of AoE abilities on recharge that no one knew when it was coming back, and so there was like, okay, what do we,
But doesn't that post to chat? Don't you roll a die and then apply it with extemporary effects or whatever?
I do, yeah. Okay. So I do, but it doesn't show up for them. It's hidden. It's on default hidden to me.
So players players need to be tracking that stuff then.
I mean, they don't know the dice when they roll it. They know
I feel like that is a transparency thing. Like, definitely, you definitely need to let them know.
That's the feedback that I think from the. Not that it's too many AoE abilities, but they want the knowledge of the AoE abilities.
Because Pathfinder 2 is a lot more strategic about breath weapons because you know how long you have before they come up again. Unless the GM's keeping it a secret. But what I've been doing is, like, I'll say, like, oh, shit, well, it's coming back in 2 rounds. That's the thing. These breath weapons, in case you guys didn't know, whatever the die is, it's that die plus 1. So a monster can never have a breath weapon 2 turns in a row. Yeah. So if you roll a 1 on that recharge, it's actually a 2. There's always 1 plus whatever that number you roll is.
So that think of that number as how many rounds have to pass where he does not have their breath weapon.
Yeah. Or your the bad rolls plus all the party was melee, but the ranger, so they were all getting the AoE plus the thing flying away all the time was probably aggravating for those melee characters. I mean, it sounds like Dom provided a number of ways to mitigate that, and they were just not aware of or used to the opportunities to do so. I mean, it's something that definitely would be resolved with an ongoing game, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, listen though, I've run games where we're like 8, 9, 10, 15 levels in, and people are like, well, this guy needs to stop flying. And it's like, why would they stop flying? Like, it's not their fault that you can't handle the fact that they can fly. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just a ongoing issue for, TTRPGs, is not having a balanced enough party to deal with the different types of locomotion. Now, a 5th level Pathfinder party, they're going to struggle, I think, against flying, because flying, I don't think, comes online really until level 6 in Pathfinder.
I mean, no. I mean, there's a lot of flying creatures that are decently low level, like that dragonfly.
No. I mean flying for the PCs. Like, yes. Access to flying for PCs, I don't think comes online until like level 5.
It's a fourth,
more like level 6.
Spell.
Yeah, more like level 6. Yeah.
So that's actually that's like level 7.
Yeah, and then the flight you do get access to at 5th level is very brief. You know what I mean? And it's very action and economy intense. But you did say you had those bola seeds to fire. Bolas can be purchased from the store normally. It's considered like a standard operating procedure for most Pathfinder Society players, is to carry some bolas with them to deal with flyers. Like, these are just things that you learn the more you play the system and the more you deal with these kind of enemies. All right, what else? Any other things you still need to work on or adjust?
So, feedback wise, people said it felt very authentic, Monster Hunter wise, so I'm happy about that. It felt like a Monster Hunter fight. In terms of things that I just need to work on, these are more things for main campaign. I need to figure out work out my hunting system of like tracking the monster down and how I'm going to do that. I'm basing it off of exploration. I have ideas for how to set that up. The other thing is I kind of want to add some more monster part stuff. So you can spend monster parts on the what we have from the Battle Zoo thing is great, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm pretty sure people want other stuff too, and I feel like there's some other cool stuff I can do with that. Another thing that I want to work on is getting more Monster Hunter, looking more at the items that are in Pathfinder and translating them into Monster Hunter. Like we had traps. Somebody was a traps archetype, snare crafter archetype. And so I had a pitfall trap and the shock trap, which there's already a shock trap built into Pathfinder that I had to like sort of modify to make it more, Monster Hunter-y a bit, but it was already there, and there was already a pitfall snare that I just repurposed. But there's that. Getting those in and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then getting more. It's more getting the content in, and then figuring out the more metagame, less in like during a hunt, more in between hunt stuff, like tracking a monster down.
Yeah.
Upgrading
local
the weapons.
flora, local fauna,
Yeah.
harvesting materials, fishing minigame. But what about the most important thing, Dom? What about mounting a monster?
That's the other thing I need to figure out, because I had a thing, because I was looking at Cling from the
Gerblins.
The Gerblins, the goblin trait, and I was looking at that and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I want to see how I can do this. So right now, what's in my mind is that have it be just a normal grapple athletics type of thing of like climbing the monster, or trying to grab onto them and stuff like that. Like if you have them grab, you can then mount. You can try and mount on your for another action. It has the same trait. It has its movement, and it's going to have the attack trait. So if it's affected by multiple attack penalty.
Would you allow a monster? Okay, keep going.
Hold on. So I also plan to have it be a thing where you get 1 degree of success if it's from falling on the monster when you do it. Okay. Yep. So there's that.
Jumping onto a monster can increase your chance of success. Okay.
Get your chest. Yep. And then while you're up there, you are considered balancing. So you're off guard unless you have the feats that allow you to be balancing and not be off guard.
All of the feats related to climbing. So you need to have the one that lets you have a hand free. You need to have the one that lets you move more than 5 feet per round. You need to so you would have to invest in it the same way a wall climbing character would invest in it. What about climb speed? How's that going to affect mounting a monster?
It won't.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
It won't.
All right. Because this is the kind of stuff to think about, right? This is the kind of stuff to think about.
Climb speed will definitely help you get up high to jump on top of them.
Okay, fair.
Which is what we had 2 people with climb speed, and they were constantly climbing up trees.
Okay.
To also get to the flying creature too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So climbing will definitely help you move, and I'm planning to put a lot of verticality in these maps.
I have to show you the Bailey Wiki stuff that I was learning this week, because it's gonna blow your mind, bro. Like this, it's gonna blow your mind. It's nuts. But that's another topic for another time. So when you say that you can grapple a monster, would you allow certain monsters to, for climbing purposes, use their reflex defense rather than their fort defense?
I mean, I'll probably stick with normal grapple reach, because if I think grapple is always your fort, and I'll probably keep it that way.
Okay.
So if a monster is very not strong but sort of agile, it could still it might still be able to get grabbed, but it'll be really good at escaping.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can use athletics or unarmed strike or athletics for escaping. So usually a monster that's really good at reflex is going to have a good acrobatics.
Okay.
And so it'll be really easy as escaping.
All right. Sweet.
And so when you are mounted onto it, monster's off guard to you. You're off guard to the monster unless you have the feats that are that help you not do that. Let me see here.
I have a question. What about the common sense aspect of mounting monsters? I have players frequently, when they mount a big monster, they're like, well, if I'm on the back of his head, he can't really bite me, right? Is that going to come into play for your monster climbing, or are you going to be is it more abstract? So I'm planning to give them an attack that can something that's like body slam or something like that. Yeah.
All monsters are going to have something that can attack somebody who's on their back.
So when you use Monster Maker in Foundry, it'll give whenever you hit that update button, it gives them something just called strike. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what I use the monster maker in this to make all my attacks. So like some of them had high accuracy and low damage, some of them had middle, and then So I went around and played around with that, and yes, I am just going to give them. There's going to be a strike. All monsters are going to have some type of strike.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
When I was working on stuff this week for my upcoming games, I was definitely leaning hard on Monster Maker, and when I saw it just gave them strike, I was like, yes, that's the attack that you could flavor it any way you need to. You know what I'm saying? That's the get off my back. That's the I'm gonna step on you when you're on the ground. That's the I elbow you in the throat, like strike. And like I was like, that's good.
It's versatile. B, P, and S.
Beautiful. Yep, I love it.
So,
all right. Yeah. It sounds amazing, and I can't wait to steal all of your hard work and use it in my in my games next year. So fantastic. I am deeply invested, both as a person that hopes to apply for the game that you're going to be running, and also as a person that wants to seed my sandboxes with some Monster Hunter monsters. So I'm very excited for how this is turning out.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. All right, I guess that's it for now. I guess quick announcements. We've got High Noon tomorrow. We've got Curse of Strahd Daybreak Sunday morning. They're in the end game now, as they say. Both of those groups are in the end game now, and then we're in the past the end game Sunday night. We're having both Odyssey of the Dragon Lords Prime and Mythic Odyssey of the Dragon Lords are gonna meet up and hash out and talk about and look back at 5.5 years of Odyssey of the Dragon Lords on our server. So should be a lot of fun. Whew. All right. Anybody? You got anything? Are we good? We covered everything.
Yeah. I think we're good.
All right.
I guess a quick announcement. Next Thursday will be the last episode of Lancer.
Oh wow! So next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, is the last Strength of Thousands for the year, and then next Thursday is the last Lancer in Series 2 Red Kobold Gaming Lancer. Okay. Wow. Everything's ending. We had Outlaws end. We had Mythic end. We got 2 other games that are, they're in the end game now. Yeah, should be good. All right. Hope everybody has a great weekend, a good Friday night, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care.